1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We are so excited. We are going to have a great show. We are going to be discussing Chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. And it is going to be a great show. Let's not waste any time. Let's get stuff going. My name is Aaron Harris, and joining me is the fabulous David Motters. David, what's up, brother?
Well, just back recording with you. You know, we've told our listeners many times that we have had busy lives with being married and having kids, and so I'm always, excited when we can get back together, get some Star Wars goodness recorded, and I'm ready to react.
Same here, my friend. Same here. I do want to just tell everybody we're sorry that this episode's coming out a week late. Had emergencies in my family with my father getting sick and ended up having to leave town. It was all of a sudden and unexpected, so it made for a very hectic time, and I just could not find time to do this. So, but he's all better and doing well, and we are able to record. So I'm excited to sit down and do this. It has been, like I said, long overdue. So we're not going to waste time, though. Let's get into things. The only big piece of news that came out is, because there really hasn't been that much, but big piece of news that came out is they actually announced it. I believe it was yesterday they announced it. We're recording this on Thursday, the 27th of January. Was the announcement that there are currently 3 different video games in development currently for Star Wars, including a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. There's no ETA on when these games will be released. There's no explanation of what they will be or what they'll be about, just that they are in development and being made, and we will see them in the next couple of years probably, which was cool. The other video game news, which I wanted to throw out there too, is we did finally get a trailer and a release date for the long awaited and anticipated Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga game. It is scheduled to come out this April 22. And to be perfectly honest, as excited as I am for this game, I'll believe it when I see it.
That's right, buddy.
I have been drug along with my hopes dashed so many times with postponement after postponement after postponement that I don't want to hold my breath and be let down again. So this time they did give us a date. It's in April, and they gave us a trailer. There's a lot of expansion packs or character packs they've already announced for season 1 and season 2 of Mando, the Bad Batch, and shows like that. So there's a lot of great things coming with it that you're going to be able to do. I need it to get here. I will say I am highly disappointed though. There is not a Star Wars Rebels expansion pack. Somebody needs to get on that and fix that before I send Chopper over to go chopper on them.
That's right. I figured, yes. Need your chopper action. Yeah.
Exactly. So that pretty much all the news there has been right now. So we will close that out, and we just want to get into this discussion on Chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. This episode was entitled Gathering Storm. It was released January 19th, 2022, exclusively on Disney Plus. Written by Jon Favreau and directed by Kevin Tancher. Man, they always throw a random wacky name in there for me. Tancharoian. David?
I'm with you on this one. Usually I know it. I have no clue on how to pronounce that last name. I like how you did it.
Kevin T. Directed by Kevin T. So,
yeah.
If you're listening, Kevin, I apologize. Just message us and let me know how to pronounce your name. But yes, Kevin T. directed. Synopsis of this episode, great. Very simply, this was the story of Boba and Fennec. We see this. We see them preparing for a war with the Pykes in this episode, while we also get the flashback stories of how Boba saved Fennec's life and the process with her healing her wound and replacing her innards with android parts and everything. And of course, we get that backstory. Also, how they go and they get his ship back, the ship formerly known as Slave One. So we see that fantastic story. So let's jump into this. David, why don't you kick us off with your initial reactions?
Yeah, I do have to say I really enjoyed this episode. And, I really did. I really enjoyed seeing how Boba Fett found her, how they tied that in with Chapter 5 of Season 1 of The Mandalorian, the gunslinger. He sees the flares being shot up, by Mando and Toro Calican. And so that was really neat to see that and how he obtained her. I called it Bionic Stomach. Reminded me of the $6 Million Man when I was a kid. Lee Majors playing Steve Austin. It tied in really nicely. I enjoyed seeing them work together to get apparently the fire spray gunship back. I don't know if I guess I can get used to saying it. I always think of the Slave One. But they kicked butt getting the ship back. Then they went and kicked some Nikto speeder bike butt, and that was pretty cool. And then they went and kicked some Sarlacc butt. And so, honestly, I never expected to see Boba go back into the Sarlacc pit. I can't believe that after they did the sonic charge that the next scene, it's her holding the rope and he's covered with acid again. I mean, wow. I guess he did not, either he has PTSD from being in there, or he's really didn't have PTSD and it wasn't that difficult to go back in. That's how bad he wants his armor. But I did put a note to that his efforts to do this regarding his armor and the ship, it shows really truly how much they mean to him. I mean, I think we already knew that, but this shows it even more. And also, as this episode ends, it really shows a battle's coming, and I'm really excited to see that. So those are just some of my initial thoughts.
Very good. Very good. I have to agree with you. It was a great episode. I had a lot of fun with it. I really like one of the things I've really liked about the Book of Boba Fett so far is seeing how they filled in the gaps with these flashbacks while he's healing in the bacta tank. Those have been just fabulous to see. And this episode was no exception to that. The storytelling was fantastic. The nods. I mean, we've gone back to the Sarlacc pit a couple times already, and we've seen it. The wreckage of Jabba's sail barge, which is just really cool to see that they've got that out there. And it was really good seeing how Fett and Fennec, what happened to them after, Fennec got shot. It was really crazy to see. And seeing the storm Jabba's palace to get the ship back, and seeing the connections throughout the episode to not only the Mandalorian but going back to Return of the Jedi and so forth. And it was just a fabulous episode, and I really enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and get this going here. One of the scenes right off the bat is we have Fennec and Boba basically having dinner. Well, one of my favorite scenes, I should say, is when they're having dinner over the Sarlacc pit.
or over the Rancor.
Or Rancor, not
yes,
Sarlacc.
Yeah.
The Rancor.
There's a lot of pits in this episode.
There are a lot of pits, and I'm running them all together.
Yeah, that's okay.
It was great, and this is where, of course, we start seeing nods to other to Return of the Jedi as well, with the torture droid now being the chef and stuff. It was just fun to see this going on and seeing these nods. What were your thoughts on the dinner scene?
Oh gosh, no, I really enjoyed that. We had been teased this before. We'd seen it in previews and clips, and I was really waiting for that to happen. I have to say that I really loved how the Klatooinian boss, voiced by one of our favorites, Phil Lamar, who we met at Central Florida Comic-Con, is voicing that Klatooinian boss, and he's the one who threatens, says, what stops us from killing you now? And then in perfect timing, the Rancor's claws come up through the bottom. They all stand up, and I loved Boba's response of just, oh really, do I have a Rancor under there? Oh, he must be hungry. And he, please sit back down. He doesn't even have to address it. The Rancor does. And they all decide to sit down, and maybe we're not going to try to kill you right now. So that was really cool. And like you said, you'd mentioned that down below, earlier in the episode in a flashback, it shows that, and seeing different aspects and different corridors and places within Jabba's palace. I really enjoyed that. It was interesting because, when you and I were covering The Mandalorian, in that season 1, episode 5, The Gunslinger, we see EV-99 as the bartender, right? Voiced by Mark Hamill at that time, talking to Mando. That's when Mando turns around and sees Toro Calican, and they go on and do their adventure. But at some point, EV-99 has to leave, apparently, right, and head over and start working as a sous chef in Jabba's palace. So, or maybe he's working both places. Maybe he's working the cantina and in Jabba's palace. So there you go.
Well, life is hard on Tatooine. You got to have those double jobs, man.
That's right.
His credits don't go as far as they used to,
Right, buddy.
But yeah, it was a fun episode. One of the things I enjoyed in this episode was the storming of Jabba's palace to get the ship back. And of course, he starts out there watching the palace from above the hill, and he's trying to count guards, and obviously he knows he can't do it on his own. So he heads back out into the desert, and that's when, of course, we get the interact from the Book of Boba, or from The Mandalorian, the 5th episode there, where he where of course we're first introduced to Fennec, and she ends up being shot and left for dead in the desert. And we actually get to see, of course, where he finds her and picks her up and takes her away. And he ends up taking her to this, human chop shop. Essentially, is the best way I can describe it. Basically the type of shop he would go to if you had like these mods that we saw the biker gang have. And this is where they're getting their mods. And basically he has Fennec modded out in order to survive. All of her guts are pretty much replaced with droid parts, and he ends up saving her life. And what's I found ironic and let me know if this kind of bothered you too. He takes her there. She's unconscious. He has her guts ripped out and put in with droid parts. And you would think, she would stay on one of those beds till she woke up. But next thing we know, she's waking up next to a fire in the middle of the desert. It just seems like a bad place to be if you're, all cut up.
Well, yeah. No, I wasn't, I didn't put it in our show notes as a talking point, but I figured you and I might come to this, that clearly when Boba Fett takes her to that mod parlor, right? And that guy starts operating on her. I'm looking around. There's no washing of hands. There's no sterile environment. Everyone's walking around in there. Her guts are open. Apparently, there's no problem with viruses or anything like that normally happens in a hospital, right? Where the physician is gloved up, masked up, stuff over the eyes. So yes, this was very much suspension of disbelief. And like you said, the next thing you see, she's out there lying on the sand. Yeah, there's nothing sanitary. And I go back to what we said before. EV-99 has to work 2 jobs, and being bounty hunter is tough work. So she wakes up and in pain, still alive, but realizing really quickly how rough this bounty hunting gig is. But yeah, there's nothing sanitary here, nothing clean, no sterile environment.
It's a hard knock life for them.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Yeah, it is very interesting. And then, of course, once he's got her healed up and he basically reveals his plans, he wants to get his ship back and basically get the people that betrayed him, starting with Jabba's major domo. And so basically she's like, you want to take over his business? And he's like, yeah, sure. I'll do it better. And and it's nice to see that conversation between him and Fennec as she decides to help him out to get his ship. And he basically lays out the plans. He's like, he goes, you should work for me. And she's like, I'm a free agent essentially. And we see him just basically say, I can give you something that no other boss will give you, which is loyalty. Yeah. I can guarantee you I will always have your back no matter what. And apparently that was enough to make that difference. And I found that interesting because, bounty hunters, they're always, on their own. They're always doing their own thing, per se, traveling around and doing their stuff. And there's not much loyalty. It's whoever's paying them the best at that point. We see that we see that in the Clone Wars, in the episode where the little farmers paid Embo and Aurra Sing and Bosk a whole bunch of money to protect them from pirates who were coming in. And of course, Anakin and Obi-Wan end up there with them as well.
Right.
But it's always a who pays most type of business. So loyalty is almost unheard of, you would think, in this business. So obviously that's something that even though it's not a lifestyle that she's used to, it is something apparently that appeals to Fennec. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's the three, I think Dan Z and the most recent Coffee with Kenobi, the main show, they were talking about the 3 fireside chats, and as they're talking, I think Boba, he makes really good arguments to her, not only about the loyalty, but saying, you and I are smarter than this. We can run this. Let's not always put our lives at risk for these people. And I think it really appealed to her. And you know, he also said something else, and you'll remember this, and the listeners will too, is when she said, being with the Tuscans made you soft. He goes, no, it made me strong. And he says, you can only get so far without a tribe. And I think that really, really, not only loyalty, but then, being part of a team together. I think safety, right? Not putting your life at risk all the time. She just got shot in the gut, and she should have been dead. She's fortunate he was around. So I think all those factors played in, and those conversations, Aaron, and the changes that he's going through, and Fennec, really tie into my psychology corner that I will do a little bit later in this episode. So
very cool, very good. Can't wait to hear it.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait to hear it. Now, of course, we have from there we have the storming of Jabba's palace, which for me was the best scene in this episode. We have them using Fennec's little like ball droid thing to fly around inside and plan their routes and see how many bad guys there are in there. And it's just a lot of fun watching them slip into the palace, go through trying to be all covert, all stealth like and everything, and end up going through the kitchen. And the chase with that little rabbit droid. Oh my gosh, that was hysterical. As it's running through the oven, and Boba ends up Fennec cuts it off, and Boba grabs it and basically is holding it up by the neck before dropping it in a garbage can. Hysterical. Oh my gosh, I haven't laughed that hard in a while. It honestly reminded me like something you would see in one of the animated shows. That
Right.
kind of chase. And it was great. I loved it. And we end up proceeding from there into the hangar where they neutralize a couple guards, and they think they're pretty much set, and all of a sudden guards are coming in from every angle, and it goes crazy. And then of course Fennec has to shoot the door open, and in order for them to make their escape, and they escape with the ship formerly known as Slave One.
Right.
I'm going to keep messing that up, man. As long as I see that ship, I'm going to keep messing that up.
Yeah, like someone said, the Slave One, those words were never said in Empire or anything, or even Clone Wars, any of that. Obviously, Boba calls it his fire spray gunship. We hear him verbalize that in one of the fireside chats with Fennec. But I guess that's really making it canon now. I can't not, well, I can stop saying Slave One, but it's so cool.
I know. So it's such a cool ship.
It is. And like you said, Aaron, to back you up, this scene in here, I agree with you 100%. This is the best scene in the whole episode. I love the escape. I love the action. I love Fennec fighting on the back of the Slave One, Boba flying it, knocking off, inside, chunks of Jabba's palace. And then she makes the sweet shot. They close the back, and they're able to fly out of there. And I'm telling you, Aaron, just like in the episode, The Tragedy, towards the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian, when Slave One comes into the scene and Mando sees it up in the sky, there's something about seeing Slave One fly away from Jabba's palace and just hearing the sound. It is so stinking cool, man. And so yeah, that whole scene and escape and Fennec shooting, Boba's flying, I loved it, my brother.
As did I. It was awesome. And then once they get the ship, we get basically Boba's revenge rampage.
Yeah.
And he goes off, and he is basically taking he's settling up. He's settling his scores. He goes and basically destroys the Nikto bike riders, the biker gang.
Yeah.
And then then from there, who's the other one?
Well, after that, they go over to Sarlacc.
The Sarlacc. Okay, I thought there was somebody. For some reason, my mind was telling me there was somebody in between. But
I wonder if what you're thinking, buddy, And I've heard a lot of people say this, and I'm thinking the same thing. And this is part of what Fennec said. Really, the Nikto bike riders took out a gang or a whole tribe of Tuscans. I think they might be part of it. I still think the Pykes are behind it, and they just sprayed that symbol on there. So I wonder if that's something you were thinking about, because that's sitting out there right now.
Yeah.
So anyways, I want to mention that. But yes, after that, they come flying over, and like you said, buddy, just seeing the wreckage of Jabba's sail barge back there, and they come up and they tilt and put the whole front of the slave one down into the Sarlacc pit, to the edge of it. Just awesome, my friend.
It really was awesome to see him do that. But it got me kind of wondering, though, because, you never see any thrusters on the front side of that ship. So
Right.
how can it just, go face down like that? Right. It just doesn't. Physics states that shouldn't be possible without, some kind of thrust propelling it up. But, it's Star Wars,
Well, right.
Suspension of reality.
Suspension of reality, suspension of disbelief. There's the mod parlor where apparently there's no germs. You don't have to have a sterile environment. So, yeah, it's all out the door at this point, but just fun. I put in our notes, buddy, and I just wanted to say this, that seeing, the fire spray gunship, and Boba goes back from round 2 with the Sarlacc pit. This is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni bringing to life probably what they did playing in the sandbox. I remember having one in my backyard. My sister and I played in it. And this is literally, I could see both of them in their homes, not even knowing each other then, with Boba Fett's ship, action figures, and you make a big hole, and that's the Sarlacc pit, right? And they're just letting their imagination run wild. Now they're executive producers on the show, and they're like, oh, hey, we can make that happen. Here you go.
Oh, absolutely. And I love how, of course, while they're hovering there, the Sarlacc grabs them and is trying to pull them in and eat them. It's like he recognizes, hey, that's my meal that got away. He's trying to pull Boba back in. And I love the almost like a nod. I love how basically it made me remember episode 1, because we see the sonic charge come out. We see Fennec save the day by releasing the sonic charge, and it slides off the back of the ship and falls into the Sarlacc pit and detonates underground. And I love that effect, that when it detonates, that sound, first off, the audio for that is just, oh my God, it's just as good as it was when watching episode 2.
Yeah, it was.
And I said episode 1 earlier. I meant episode 2. But seeing Attack of the Clones and hearing it in Attack of the Clones, it was just so good. And seeing it here was just as good. But then seeing the ripple effect across the sand as the blast goes out underground, and then seeing the effects as Jabba's sail barge all of a sudden starts sinking into the sand underground, because everything's been destroyed underneath. It's just incredible effects in this scene, and I absolutely loved it.
Oh, just incredible nods, like you said, from being in Jabba's palace, and the humor inside there reminded me a lot of seeing the movie in '83, and then like you said here, seeing the sail barge, obviously the prequels, episode 2, but then obviously going back to the sail barge starting to sink down in the sand. Just a lot of prequel and OT love, and I couldn't get enough of this episode, my friend. It's just the nostalgia, the feels from watching all this and seeing, wow, here's what happened after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Very much. And of course the flashbacks pretty much end with him going back. Basically what we saw in the teaser at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, with him walking into the palace, shooting. What is the Majordomo's name? I am completely brain lost.
You mean
right now.
who Matt Wood plays?
Yes.
Oh, Bib Fortuna.
Yes, Bib Fortuna.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember his name to save my life right now.
Right here.
We see the execution of Bib Fortuna, and of course that whole scene with him sitting on the throne while Fennec pops the cork, and then of course he wakes up in his back the tank, and the droid basically congratulates him because he is now fully healed.
Yeah.
Which, since all of these flashbacks have been taking place while he's in the back the tank, this pretty in the fact that we caught up to where he takes over the Jabba's business, I can assume we are done with our flashbacks.
I agree with you, buddy. I do, and I think, we're going to see that we're going to stay in current time in the next 3 episodes.
Absolutely. I think we will too. And it's going to be good to see, especially since there's only a few episodes left. We need to progress the story on. I want to see what happens with the Pykes. And we've, of course, when he comes out, it's decided that they need to, build an army. They need muscle for the fight in order to fight the Pykes.
Yeah.
And of course, we get a scene, of course, in the club with Kirsten basically taking on an entire table of Trandoshans by himself, which was absolutely hysterical. It was great. He's just tearing them up left and right. And I love it. He gets the last one up in the air and he's holding him. And of course, Jessica Biel's character comes out and basically is telling him how wonderful he is and how awesome he is, and just reminds her of what kind of awesome job he did as in the fight pits and everything, and how he's just fabulous and strong, and the people loved him and this and that, and to just put him down and carry on his business. And we see he's like, okay, I guess I will. But, he's not going to let the Trandoshan walk away. He rips one of his arms off.
I know. Great.
And when it takes you right back to episode 1 when they're playing the holo chess game. Yeah. And there's like, nobody worries about letting a Wookiee win. Or a droid win. That's because a droid won't rip your arms out of a socket when he loses.
Right. And then they show it here,
They legit show it here. He literally gets his arm ripped off, which was, and she, of course, looks annoyed. And, of course, Kirsten walks out of the club. And, of course, Fett is standing there. And he looks at her and she's like, good job. You almost had him.
It was worth a try.
Worth a try.
Yeah.
And of course it's there. And of course the ending of the episode is probably the best part. The second best part, because as they're talking about muscle and everything, she's like, we can buy muscle. And as they're standing on the balcony of Jabba's palace, we can buy muscle. And they turn and they look out across the Dune Sea, and all of a sudden you hear that very familiar tune as the episode ends.
Oh, yes.
Which, of course, is none other than the theme of The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
So do you think they're going to bring Mando into all this?
Of course. It's happening. It's happening.
Of course they do. Of course. I kind of expect when they started talking about fighting the Pykes, he would have to bring people in. I assumed Mando would be a natural fill-in for his team. Of course, he's got to have more. So, I got a feeling he's got Black Krrsantan.
Black Krrsantan. Yeah, Black Krrsantan.
Yeah, Krrsantan. Yeah. I can never say his name right either. Yeah. But we got the Wookiee.
Yeah. The Wookiee, he's called Black Krrsantan in the comics, the Marvel comics, but in this, they just call him Krrsantan. Now, it's interesting, Jessica Biel's character, Madame Garza, calls him a nickname, Santo. Now, Dr. Aphra in the comics calls him Santi, and so just kind of slightly different nicknames for him. So, anyways, there you go.
Perfect. So we got this team building, but they're going to need more than that. So I'm curious to who else is going to join them in their war against the Pykes.
Yeah.
Because the possibilities are endless.
They are. They definitely are.
Oh, they are endless in this. So I'm curious to see how and where they take it. So, but that pretty much wraps up the discussion. Anything we missed in our talking points that you wanted to go over?
No, I mean, there's so many little details, so many little cool scenes, but no, I thought we did a pretty good job.
Perfect. Well, with that, let's go ahead and go into our final thoughts on the episode. For me, of course, like I said earlier, this was just fantastic storytelling. Everything about this episode was great. With the flashbacks during the back of the tank, I've loved those, and I honestly kind of hate to see them end. But now that the healing is done, we know they're pretty much over, and we're going to see what's going on in current times throughout the rest of the series. So I'm excited to see where this goes with this battle of the battle going forward. It's going to be interesting with the Pykes. Going forward, I'm interested to see where this goes and how this plays out, because we only got this is episode 4. We only got 3 more episodes after this. So let's we're going to be sprinting toward the finish line, I think.
That's right. We are. I'm with you, buddy. I'll dive in with my final thoughts. I really, really enjoyed it, almost as much as chapter 2, which was incredible. I was thinking to myself, gosh, getting the slave 1 back, they don't do that in the second chapter, but that train scene and the bikes and the flashback, and the symbolism that you see in there, and very much the mythology. I think I give a slight edge to chapter 2. But again, they're my favorites, so far, 2 and 4. The character development for Boba is very cool in that, he sees that he doesn't want to lose his life for the various entities that hire him and Fennec for jobs, right? We talked about that a bit already. And we said, it really did get through to Fennec, because she ends up, teaming up with him to take on this mission of being crime lords over Tatooine. I thought about it, he did, in episode 2, you and I have been referencing that. He does see his father killed while working for Count Dooku, one of these entities, right? Various persons who hire him. And, you can tell Boba doesn't want to repeat in history. He almost had it himself, right? He's hired by Jabba, and he's almost killed in the Sarlacc pit. And so that character development is really, really cool to see. And there is a motivation to change and be different, to stay alive, right? Yep. What does he say? I don't, to Fennec, I don't, we're almost dying for these idiots all the time. Just as you said, I can't wait to see the last 3 episodes and how they'll play out. That music, not subtle at all. We really know that Mando's going to be joining the fray, and that's exciting. And so I'm ready. I'm ready to see the rest of these episodes and see what happens.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun to see where it goes and how it plays out there at the end. So, of course, we want to hear from you. Let us know what you think of chapter 4 of the I almost said chapter 4 of The Mandalorian, chapter 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. We are excited to hear from you. Let us know. You can, of course, either comment or direct message us on any of our social media accounts, whether that be Facebook and Instagram at SW Reactions, or Twitter at SW Reactions Pod, or now, just so you know, we are also now on Pinterest at SW Reactions as well. Surprise.
Nice.
So So that's going on. So awesome. Check us out there as well. Or, of course, you can always email us, show@starwarsreactions.com as well. So with that, David, I believe you mentioned earlier you have a psychology corner for us.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Trying to be consistent with those as we get going. You and I had talked in a previous episode about just not being able to do a lot of recording in December and all that kind of stuff. So I've been wanting to get them going. Just a quick recap. In my last psychology corner, I went over depression and bereavement, and I was motivated to go over that because I wanted people to know the differences between them. But again, we're in January, and this time of year can bring about quite a bit of depression. Because of the time of year, because of the holidays, and particularly if people have had losses during these times. And so, also in that last episode, we'd seen Boba deal with his Tuscan tribe being wiped out in one of the flashbacks. So in terms of depression or bereavement, I wanted to talk about it. So people can check that out in the last one. Tonight, what I wanted to do, and it's again tied into this time of year, again, we're still in January. And it ties into the changes that we're seeing in Boba Fett. Again, earlier, Aaron and I talked about the 3 different fireside chats that Boba and Fennec have. And it really shows this progression, not just in Boba, but in Fennec as well as characters. And so I thought it might be a good idea to talk about New Year's resolutions as well as this thing called the stages of change theory. Now, I know we're getting towards the end of January here, but it still bears, I don't know, I guess a recovering of this issue of New Year's resolutions. Perhaps, I don't know, in years past I've touched on this a bit, but one thing I wanted our listeners to know that as a psychologist, I never encourage my clients to set New Year's Eve resolutions, and there's a reason why, right? The reason why is because New Year's resolutions are based on motivation. Now, motivation is an emotion. And as our listeners know, Aaron, emotions are fickle. They come and go. I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm depressed. I'm not depressed. I'm feeling really great. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling excited. I'm not feeling excited. I'm feeling motivated. I'm not very motivated. And so when we base something on something that's fickle like that, that's why people have said to you, Aaron, and to me, and our listeners as well, their family, their friends, et cetera, have said, how long did you keep that? How long did you not smoke? Well, it's January 2nd, and I already picked up a pack of cigarettes. Or January 1st, I've already eaten all the food I shouldn't be eating. By mid-January, end of January, where we are right now, is usually about the longest that you see people go, with these, particularly depending on their issues of levels of motivation. Some people do have more motivation than others. That's fine. But almost invariably, New Year's resolutions are done first week of January all the way. I've had people tell me, about the end of January, where we are right now. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Again, talking about change and how it's not easy to do it. But I want to talk about something else related to change. And I don't believe I've ever covered this in our psychology corner here, Aaron. And it's called the stages of change theory. It's pretty cool. Let me kind of share with our listeners what I'm talking about here in terms of what this is. There's 6 stages of change. And what I was going to do tonight is mention them, give a brief description, but then in episodes to come, I'll go over each of the 6 stages in a bit more detail and allow it to be more digestible. Oh, that's a nice pun, particularly with a Sarlacc pit talk, right? More digestible. How do you like that? There's a dad
Love
joke
it.
for you that's not even a dad joke, buddy.
Stealing my bit.
I am stealing, I know. So again, people can think about, instead of a New Year's resolution, thinking about these stages of change. So the first stage of change is pre-contemplation. At this time, a person fails to recognize the need for change. Okay, they don't even know that they need to change. The second stage of change is contemplation. This is where the person is seriously considering the need for change, but they're not doing anything yet to change. The third stage is preparation, where that man or woman, that boy or girl, etc., starts to make small changes. Okay. The fourth stage is called action. This is where change really starts to occur, but it still hasn't been roughly more than 6 months of consistent action towards change. The maintenance stage, or the maintenance phase, is where the person is regularly engaging in changing that behavior that they want to change, or introducing a new behavior, etc., stopping another behavior. And usually we look at the person's been doing an errand for more than 6 months. The last stage of change is termination. And at this point, the change has occurred, okay? And it's just a regular part, and they're not even having to think about making that a part of their life in terms of behavior change. So the person can move on to other aspects of change in their life. But those are the 6 stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and then termination. And so in episodes to come, I will cover each of those. In our next one, I'll cover pre-contemplation in more detail. All right, so there's a new psychology corner, and kind of a little tease to keep people coming back for a little bit more.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Very good. And if somebody wants to ask you questions about the Psychology Corner or about Star Wars in general, how would they go about doing that, David?
Absolutely. The 3 places that I've always been encouraging here is Twitter. I am at David_Modders, Modders. There is an S at the end. There's our email, as Aaron had mentioned. Mine is David@StarWarsReactions. And on Instagram, it's just simply look for David Modders, and I'm there. And by the way, my grade is an A-. I know Aaron and I didn't do that, but there's my grade.
Oh yeah, we missed that, didn't we? I'm sorry. We did miss those grades. Mine was an A- as well. So you can let us know what y'all think of it as well. Grade it for us. No, if you want to talk Star Wars with me, best place to do that is Twitter at TAHarris121079, or of course you can email me, Aaron@StarWarsReactions.com. David, it's that wonderful time of the show.
Is this where we get more listeners, or we lose listeners? I have to tease you about that.
The world may never know.
Oh, my Lord.
That's
Here
right.
we go.
It is time for our Star Wars dad joke of the week. So here we go. What do you get if you mix a bounty hunter with a tropical fruit?
All right. What do you get if you mix a bounty hunter with a tropical fruit?
You get Mango Fett.
That is horrible.
That's Django's cousin.
Oh, is that Django's cousin?
That's Django's cousin.
Mango Fett.
Mango Fett.
Oh,
All
God.
right.
I love it.
All right. Well, David, this has been a blast, my friend.
Absolutely. So fun, buddy.
So fun. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Y'all are the best. We appreciate each and every one of you. We pray and wish y'all the best. Pray for y'all and wish y'all the best that life has to offer. Stay healthy, stay safe, and remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com. For our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe, visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.